Welcome back to the Adventure Reignition podcast. Today is a bit of a special episode because I want to do something that I really want to practice more. Is like creating episodes a bit on the spot, naturally, and just show up like this. So to give you a bit of context straight away, I was on the run just a few minutes ago. I came back, shower, and I had a lot of ideas. It happens a lot when I'm running, especially when I go very slow. I tend to have a lot of ideas that come into my run. And now I feel really inspired to talk about a subject that the idea I had during my run about living a narrow but long life versus living a large but short life. And that's an idea I had during my run, and I decided to practice what I preach. I mean, at least what I want to do more, which is creating content on the spot, especially on this podcast, to be even more authentic and also share my ideas from the bat. So let's dive into that topic about living a large and short life versus then narrow and long life. And I took some notes so that I will definitely take a look time to times to be sure I'm covering everything I want on this. But the topic today is definitely I rather live a large but short life than a long and narrow life. And the idea came because, as you may know, at this time of the year, it's Christmas season, but it's also the time where I've been born almost 35 years ago. So I'm turning 35 in a couple of days from the moment I'm recording this episode. And I've been reflecting a little bit on my life, on the journey towards 35 already. And I remember when I was 23, 25, 26, I was thinking about 35. I was like, it's pretty old, but you stay young by keeping this young mindset, and aging is part of the process of life. It was easy to say at 25, 26. Definitely not the same feeling at 35, but I try to keep that spirit that I promised to myself to stay young, adventurous, and just go after whatever inspires me and bring my curiosity. And while I was reflecting on that, reflecting on living abroad at 21 for 6 months alone in San Diego, California. That was my first big travel and dream I realized, especially after losing my dad at 19. Was very powerful moment. Then I traveled the world alone at 26 for a whole year in 2016. It's been quite an incredible transformative experience for me. And then I did a lot of smaller adventures, like getting used to the cold, going cold bath in the lake, then now in my small bath in my garden regularly, testing morning routines, running marathon, going through Switzerland with my bike, through all the 26 regions in 3 weeks, and so many more that I didn't share or talk about, that just I feel like it's very small, but for me it's still adventures. And reflecting on that just shows the journey that brought me where I am today. And honestly, I'm pretty proud of and happy of the whole journey. If you would have told me between my 18th and 19th birthday, when my dad literally jumped out from the window and lost a leg in the process, and then 6 months later for his second attempt, and then a year after that where he found peace. At this moment, if you would have told these 18/90 years old Blaze that he would go live in the US for 6 months, learn English, then travel the world alone for a year, turn creator, taking photos and videos and making a career around that, and then crossing every canton of Switzerland with his bike for 3 weeks, being alone on his bike. I wouldn't have believed that. And that's the beauty of it. It's life is not a linear path. It's like a lot of ups and downs, and it's constantly throwing stones at us. And we tend to think, and I do the same, as you have a vision, you go towards it, straight line. It's never like that, you know? At 19, I lost my dad in tragic circumstances. It was 19 actually, but it started when I was 18. And when you turn 18, you expect nothing but something like that. And for me, it has been a constant reminder that life is fragile, but there are ups and downs, and you have to learn to navigate through all of those moments. But what I wanted to say is, when I reflect on all those moments, and it's coming back to the subject of today about living a large but short life rather than long and narrow life, it could be also applied to your career. We're gonna talk more into details in a second, but there is a point and something that for me really showcase what I'm trying to say is I had 2, maybe 3 moments in my life where I felt I was okay to die. If I would die, I would be totally fine with it because I felt I lived what I had to live. And I had this experience at least 2 times, maybe 3. And it shows that for me, even if I would die at those moments, and I will get specific in a minute, I was happy. And I was proud of the large panel of experiences I lived. So the first time was at the end of my 6 months in San Diego, California. I was literally the last weekend. We went with friends at the time over there to do skydiving. That's something I was really, really scared of doing. And I was, okay, so I lived my dream to stay 6 months in California, learn English there, live a crazy, beautiful experience that's reconnected with me with life. And I was like, okay, if I have to die, I mean, at least I lived the experience, so I can now try. So that was kind of like a motivation trick, mind trick to make me do this. So we went there. I remember we arrived at the complex, and you have to start by signing, I don't know, 10, 20 pages of, like, if the parachute doesn't open, that's not our fault. If you don't survive, it's not our fault. Kind of like those things. I think like that moment really scared me a lot. And then they show you like a bit of like practice before. Then you just jump into the plane. And while you just like going on the air, you see the altitudes rising and rising and rising. And I could feel the tension in my body, the stress, the anxiety picking up more and more. And then right before we jump, they open the door of the plane. And that's at the moment where I realized that I was in a plane for the first time with the door open. And I wasn't the first one to jump, so I had a friend of mine who jumped, and it was crazy to see somebody jump from the plane. And then I came to the edge of the plane. The guy just like picked my head like this and asked me, "Are you ready?" I literally answered no, and he started counting like 3, 2, and then at 1 he just like jumped. I guess it's just for people to avoid like holding on the plane. So then I flip in the sky, and then it was like free fall for a minute or so. And then we just like he opened the parachute and we went slowly down, and was a crazy experience. And I remember right after this that I was okay to die, like literally. Even the day after, when I went partying with my friends for the last couple of hours in California, I really felt I lived a good life. And I was only 21. And I was able to say that because I was connected to the essence of feeling alive, excited, having fun, being like in love, literally, with living. And that's exactly what I mean by a large life. And the second time was after traveling for a year around the world. I felt, damn, I lived 10 lives in 1 year, visiting 17 countries and 3 continents. At the end of this, I remember I was sitting on a beach, Copacabana beach in Rio de Janeiro, which was my last city. And I felt, if I die now, I'm the most peaceful guy ever. And that's because I lived so many different experiences, met so many beautiful people, and had such a beautiful adventure, outside adventures, but also self-discovery adventure that was literally in peace and ready to go if my time was at this moment. And I really felt, once again, I lived a large life. And in contrary, as I'm reflecting on those moments, I'm also trying to, and I also often think about, like, if my dad would still be with us today, what kind of life or what kind of person would I be? And it's definitely a hard question to answer, to be honest. But I definitely identify myself as, in this scenario that I play in my head, as, yeah, somebody who would have followed the conventional path. Not that it would have been a bad thing, but I will end up a way different person if I would have like followed that path for the last 15 years. I would probably be the guy who would be in an office trying to climb the corporate ladder and paying attention to status, money, and living, what I mean by that is like a narrow life. And what I mean is not that I want to discredit the people who do that. I think it's perfectly fine. Everything and everybody can choose whatever they want to do. If it fits, and it fits for a lot of people, this lifestyle, this conventional path. So this is not what I mean by you shouldn't follow the conventional path, but that's how I represent myself. And I definitely feel that I would feel trapped even more into these lifestyles, and reflecting on the guy who would have followed the traditional path and the guy that I was along those years towards today would be two different people. And even if it's not for everybody to travel, to quit your jobs many times for adventures, for passion projects like I'm doing now, living that kind of life, the corporate life, the status life, money life, or even if you don't care about the money and status, just like you feel unmotivated, missing a bit of excitement. I would have felt that at some point for sure, if I would have been that guy. And for me, that would have represented a narrow kind of career in life. And for me, taking leaps to travel the world, quit my job to travel the world, and quit my job again like a couple months ago to to pursue my passion as a creator and a purpose coach. I understand for a lot of people it's really hard to do those, and it is for me. Don't get me wrong. It was like it's still risky, and I'm still doubting myself like every day. Did I take the right choice? But I rather like take those risks and fail completely and have what I think is a large life by in terms of experiences, in terms of aliveness, in terms of feeling proud of yourself, taking risk and live adventurously than a narrow life where you just like fulfill other people's expectation, whether it's your parents, society, your partner, or your peers and friends, or anybody, and just you want something, but because you're scared you stay in that situation. And I understand because it's hard. When I had to take those risks, was hard. When I quit my job to travel the world, damn, I that's something I wanted to do, and I worked towards it to save money to do it. But pulling the plug was difficult because I didn't have any money in my pocket, and then when I came back was tough. And that's the difference for me. And I just want to check my notes because I have a couple more stuff to share with you, and to give you maybe a bit more value. Yeah. So why do we by default live narrow life or life and career? For me, it goes together. It's like there are three main reasons for me why it's easier to follow a narrow life, long life, where we're scared to die. And I'm not gonna lie, today I'm scared to die, even if I just told you two stories when I was okay to die, and I feel like it's because I was living fully. And there are three reasons why it's easier to live a narrow life. First is because it's easy to follow the flow and the path in front of us. I mean, we all been there. You just follow the plan that has been built for you in front of you. So go to school, get good grades, go to university, get a good job, and climb the corporate ladder. I don't think it's like as traditional now that it used to be, but that's still kind of like the model that somehow we tend to follow. So it doesn't require a lot of deep thoughts into this, and that's the easy solution. So that's the first reason why it's easy to follow the flow. The second one is like once we are into this, we are scared to take risks because it feels so safe to be in that box where we get the money, we get the lifestyle we maybe want, but we feel something is missing. It's really scary to take a leap or change your trajectory when everything around you is telling you to stay in that lane. And when you take a unconventional path as a creator, for example, it's hard for people to really understand what you do. And that's fine. But sometimes people around you bring their own sense of fear, expectations, and how they would behave in this, and they give you advices. So from that standpoint, it's really, really scary to take risk where everything around you is telling you to stay in the lane. And the third reason why we live a narrow life is a bit an extension of the point number 2, but I call it comfort, money, and status. It's kind of like a golden prison. It's like you feel comfortable, you have the money, you have the recognition, and yeah, it's good. you feel good, you feel content, but you feel something is missing. You feel you're not really doing something for yourself. And yeah, you feel you've been feeling a path that was created from others. And if you experience a midlife crisis, or at some point you kind of like question everything that you followed, those thoughts can happen. And all the things you have built can act as a golden prison and very hard to get out. So the three reasons why it's easy and we tend to follow narrow life is like, first, it's easier to follow the flow because that's the kind of like map that is presented to us when we are teenagers and early adults. The second, because it's scary to take risks when everything around you is just telling you to stay in the lane. And the third one is like the comfort, the money, the status, and everything that acts as a golden prison around us. So that's the reason why I think it's really, really hard to get out of those conventional path. And it could be that's what I call a narrow life, but it could be also you could be in a conventional path, just a little disclaimer, and live a very large life. I know some people that are doing, first they are climbing up the corporate ladder, but they feel really challenged and inspired by the work they do. And then on top of that, they have like crazy adventures with their bike, skiing in winter, running marathons, and going to travel. And it's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but that's my experience with what I call the narrow life. So now the question comes to, how do we build a larger life, even if it's shorter? We don't know if it's going to be short or not, but how do we do that? For me, first, it's important to slow down. Wherever you are in your life, it's like taking a moment to breathe, slow down, and now at the end of the year, there's perfect timing to do that. And reflect on your career, on life journey that you have took so far, a bit like I did with you at the beginning of this podcast episode. And just try to look what brought you excitement, passion, love, and maybe some of those moments where you felt almost okay to die. Like you felt, this is good. I've done something amazing and I'm really proud. So try to reflect on those moments in this end of the year period to kind of like identify the patterns of what excites you, what brings the light, the fire within you. The second point on how to live a larger life is to understand who you are and what lights you up and the fire within. So with the first step, you can identify patterns. But here's more understanding your values, understanding the priorities you have, maybe simplifying your life and a bit decluttering the life you have. Could be activities, could be objects, could be anything. But just like simplify, understand your values, your core values, what drives you. And a bit of, with the first reason, like see what you love doing, what brings you the fire within, what excites you, what scares you, those kind of stuff. And the third point on how to live a larger life is to embrace adventure and discomfort while following your North Star. For me, the biggest fear is to have regrets at the end of my life, because I lived what I've lived with my dad in tragic circumstances. I've been connected to death pretty early in my adult life. And I don't think about that every day, don't get me wrong. But I'm pretty connected to life's fragility. And I tend to think about death quite regularly. And the worst thing I can experience for myself is arriving at the end of my life at 80 on my deathbed and regretting things I didn't try. And that's been pretty much the spirit of all my life. I quit my job to travel the world after my studies because I felt trapped a bit in a box and I wanted to transform myself, but also follow my curiosity and explore the world. I went back and forth between jobs and travels and adventures until the pandemic, and then came back a little bit more onto traditional jobs. But yet again, I felt last summer, the call to take a bold risk again. And the risk and adventure for me is to create content regularly and make a living with that by coaching you on how to find that North Star, the purpose that I know it's something that brings the joy and the fire within me every day. And that was the perfect moment to take that risk. And that's how I want to live my life. I want to take bold risks. I want to have a sense of adventure. Of course, I want to succeed in what I'm doing now. But there's no guarantee that in 12 months from now, I will achieve what I want. But I know in the process, I will be a different person. And that's what adventure is for me. So whether or not I achieve the goal, the summit, I know the self-discovery and a lot of transformation happens along the journey. And I think that's how we can live a larger life, is by bringing more depth, more aliveness, more risks. And that's why I love so much cold bath. Actually, I don't like them. But I love the idea that it challenges me to overcome the discomfort. So yeah, those are the 3 tips that I had on the spot to live a larger life, even if short, but maybe not, maybe large and long. So the first one is to slow down and reflect on your life and career journey and see what brings you joy and excitement. The second one is to understand who you are, your values, what lights you up, what you love doing. And the last one is to embrace discomfort and adventure while following your North Star, purpose, goal, however you want to call it, but that thing that inspires you. I can guarantee you that even if it's not easy every day, it really brings that meaning, a fulfillment, and an excitement every day. So yeah, that's it. Live a larger life, maybe short, or an hour but long life. I made my choice. You know how adventure is an important value for me. I hope it inspires you to look for that for yourself. And yeah, that was Blaze the Balance on the spot podcast episode. Tell me if you like those kind of like on the spot episodes on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'd love to have your feedback because that's something I want to practice more and being a bit more intimate with you. All right, guys, that's it. Bye.